And it looks like students and visitors inside school buildings will also be required to wear face masks. When in-person learning begins September 9th, the school committee voted 8-0 that a face covering that covers the nose and mouth must be worn by all individuals in school buildings and on school transportation, regardless of vaccination status. Face coverings may be removed outdoors. The policy will remain in place until rescinded by the school committee.
And what's in the documents are two policies that were created last year for the first time, based a lot on the Mass Association of School Committees templates and guidance regarding face coverings, or as we all call them, masks, and as well as essentially an interim during COVID policy that provides for some additional emergency powers for the superintendent with respect to a limited amount of other policies for the purpose of allowing us, the superintendent and the school department to shift quickly as needed, and as we now know happened all the time last year and again now, to ever-changing circumstances. So the policy subcommittee, which consisted of myself and school committee members Margaret Albright and Kathy Shields, and Carolyn Weissman, an attorney for the city of Newton that often helps us out with these things, and with some input from Ruth Hashino, who is the supervisor of all school nurses, and with some review from Health and Human Services, we updated and we redlined so that you could see the track changes in the policy. There aren't a lot with the face covering policy changes, just some cleanups and, largely changing the date because Newton is voting on requiring face coverings for all staff, students, and people entering the building at this point until rescinded for the end of the school year. And similarly, updated the the superintendent's emergency powers policy to extend into this year, but with some revisions largely around a lot of last year's focused a lot on the return to learn plan that what DESE was requiring from districts, so just cleaning that up as well. And you can see those track changes as well. So that was largely the process, and it was just to keep us up to date and to be clear that the district was requiring face covering as well as part of the policy. So to vote it back in and revise it, not in a substantive way, just some small changes.
Okay, is there a move to approve the face coverings policy EBCFA with the noted sort of exception next to physical education that says per athletics guidelines?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Second by moved by Tamika, second by Anping. All in favor? Aye. That's 8-0, Lisa.
Everyone will recall last year we had required testing for our athletes, and that proved to be challenging from an operational perspective, from an equity perspective. And so we've given this some additional thought. I've talked to Kathy Lopes about it. And our recommendation, really our decision in this case, given the authority we have, is to announce that for athletes at the middle and high school levels and students participating in extracurricular theater, that we would either have to have a vaccination, proof of a vaccination, or participate in testing. That is what we think is fair. We think it's workable. And that's what we'd like to do.
We are not voting on the athletics and extracurricular. There's no policy that we're voting on that. We are voting on the general interim policy on COVID related issues, which is EBC, and the extracurricular and athletics really honestly decision is at the discretion of the superintendent, with obviously advice from medical advisory, and school committee is welcome to comment, but we are not voting on that policy. We didn't vote on it this spring, and it is specified under the superintendent's emergency powers. Motion by Margaret, second by Emily, all in favor? Okay, that is another 8-0. Thank you, everybody.